The White House revealed today that President Biden and VP Harris were working the phones yesterday ahead of a key vote set for the Freedom to Vote Act tomorrow. Biden and Harris spoke with several Democratic senators, including Warnock, Klobuchar, Ossoff, and Padilla, all lawmakers who unveiled the bill, along with Manchin, back in September. But the test vote tomorrow faces a nearly impossible feat because Democrats do not have 60 votes to pass it. All that as Biden is dialing up the pressure in person on another agenda item, his social spending economic bill. He met today with progressive and centrist Democrats to try and bridge the divide within his own party less than 2 weeks before Democrats' self-imposed October 31st deadline to get it done. And just in case you're wondering which of these agenda items centrist Democrats might be prioritizing, here's how Manchin put it today. Take a listen.
Can it be done by October 30? Well, no, that's complete.
But it's
yeah, but this is the most important. Okay.
Are you saying you oppose the?
Joining me now to discuss is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter, LaTosha Brown. So, LaTosha, Manchin just let us know that the Voting Rights Act is not the priority. So where does that leave it when Democrats can't even get to pass the Biden's economic bill?
You know, the bottom line is it's not a matter that the Democrats can't do it. The question is, are they willing to do what it takes to get it done? They have the power and the votes, not necessarily to pass the bill to move it into law because of the filibuster. The question is, are they going to use the opportunity and the power to literally be able to end the filibuster? So the question isn't a matter of do they have the ability to do it. The question really is more fundamentally based on do they have the political will to do it? I think Manchin said it all. I mean, Manchin said in his interview that basically oh no, that's a priority. He even had the audacity to laugh around it, right? And so we even hear this message coming from the White House. There's a consistent message that consistently says that voting rights is just another issue, when in fact I think part of that is part of the strain that we deal with in racism in this country, that unfortunately white America has not recognized that and particularly white Democrats have not really recognized that their fate is actually tied in to the fate of Black voters and voters of color in this country.
So Schumer has set up this test vote for tomorrow for the Freedom to Vote Act. It is sure to fail. So what is the tactical reason for doing this?
You know, that's a really good question. I don't have the answer to that other than I think that we have to really move beyond what I call performative politics. At the end of the day, right now, as we speak, what we're seeing is redistricting. We're seeing states like Texas where you literally may have two Black representative seats that are literally the Republicans are trying to eliminate one of those seats. We're seeing currently in the state of Georgia where Black voters and voters are being purged from the polls. We're actually seeing where they're taking over. There's an attempt to take over right now in Fulton County, Georgia, the largest county, most populous county in the state of Georgia, for the Republican Secretary of State to take over the elections board, which is precisely what Trump asked. The bottom line is we're not talking about at some point in the future. Right now, we have lost ground. And right now we're literally we're talking about redistricting that will have tremendous impact on what happens around the drawing of districts and representation in this country. So tomorrow we don't need a performative vote. Tomorrow what we need something that's substantive. So if there's a vote that should have been brought to the floor, it should be around ending the filibuster so that we can literally pass federal voting rights legislation and protect the right to vote.
So Manchin helped to write this new voter protection plan. I think the strategy on the Democrats' part is to say if he is involved in writing it, he has a vested interest in it. And so when Republicans filibuster it tomorrow, he will have pressure on him to protect the thing that he helped to write. Do you think that that is how it is going to shake out?
Let me say there's a couple of things. One, how's it shaked out so far? The bottom line is here we are right now. We're in October. And we're still having a conversation about the protection of voting rights when we know we've been the last 6 months, we've seen every 48 states actually pass and literally put forth legislation to diminish and marginalize voting rights in this country. So we're not talking about some hypothetical. We're talking about what is happening now in Manchin. While yes, there's been an effort, yes, that he has been part of authoring this new bill, what we have not seen is we've not seen him deliver on what he said. He continues to say that the Republicans, yes, he has goodwill with the Republicans. Where is it? We have yet to see that right now. And I think at this point, Schumer should be putting the pressure on him to deliver. We're out of time. Time is up. They've been on recess. They're out of time around us continuing to go in this perpetual cycle to operate as we're moving, and we're not seeing real movement around pushing voting rights.
Right. So rather than meeting privately with senators, should Biden be out talking to the American people about voting rights and his Build Back Better plan? Should he maybe deliver an address from the Oval Office about this to put pressure on the lawmakers and help to catalyze pressure from the public on the lawmakers?
Oh, absolutely. Everything that he's doing about the Build Back Better, you can't talk about we're going to build infrastructure in this country at the expense of allowing the Democratic infrastructure to collapse. You can't talk about, yes, we're going to bring about this Build Back Better America at the expense of Black voters being marginalized and punished because we actually showed up and voted in record numbers in this last election cycle, that we know that the voting suppression bills are targeted towards this constituency group, as well as other communities of color and Democratic-leaning voters. And so I think it's really important, and we've got to be diligent around sending the message that is a non-negotiable, that our voting rights, that should not be a partisan issue, but we put Biden in office and we have to hold him accountable that yes, he should be out using, not only just going around the country talking about it, but he has something available to him. Is he willing to end the filibuster? And we've not seen him move in a way that says, I am going to deliver this by any means necessary.
LaTosha Brown, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining me tonight.